Southwest Fire Academy was established in 2015 as a response to the recognized need for quality, safe, and affordable fire and rescue training in Ontario. This is not your average fire college. SFA has high standards for their students, and it is their mission to teach and produce qualified, ambitious firefighters who are prepared to work hard to serve their communities. This is not a diploma mill. This is where you can learn strategic, aggressive firefighting from passionate, intelligent instructors who never forget why they were made to do this job. SFA is an accredited private career college that is regulated by the Ministry of Training, colleges, and universities, with a memorandum of understanding with the Office of the Fire Marshal. This means that SFA is an approved training provider with the OFM, and the programs are recognized in Ontario. Check out their pre-service and expanding selection of course offerings at southwestfireacademy.ca. Hello everyone. Welcome to episode 118 of Multiple Calls. I'm Scott Hewlett. Some firefighters have a gambling problem, and it's usually never a problem for them. They play the odds that they can get from hire to retire with minimal to no effort, and it's literally and figuratively a pretty safe bet. There are some retirees that were employed as firefighters that beat the firehouse. There are some that are gambling right now, and there will be more in the future. You might think that the reason they're quiet about it is part of their laziness, but it's not. It's because they know it's nothing to be proud of. I don't hear anyone praising their mentors for teaching them how to use the system. It's easy to shrug and mumble that it's just the way it is, but it's hard to ignore that the number of life and death moments you experience or decisions you make for others doesn't adjust their importance. Once in a career is not insignificant. And then there's the double standards. If the gamblers knew they were going to need to be rescued on the next call they responded to, they would have a preference of which members of their department they would want on that crew. I won't be it for you, but I expect you to be it for me. And worse, I'll make you feel bad about working hard to be the one I can depend on. Maybe they can look themselves in the mirror because they don't care about who they are just as much as they don't care about others. But that's not us. We can look ourselves in the mirror because we do. Here's my second chat with Kyle Romagus. Hey man.
What's up, buddy?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good to see you.
Too, buddy.
Glad we could make this happen.
Yeah, man. I actually just got done talking to McGrail.
Oh, wicked.
I'm episode 9.
Nice. That's definitely a podcast I wish was out way more often.
For sure. Yeah, we're trying to do some more, but it's hard to get all three of us. Jay's busy. James seems to think he broke up with us. I kind of think he did as well. So we'll see.
Okay. I really enjoyed your episode on National Fire Radio. That was great.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and that actually prompted a few follow-up questions I had in my mind. So what better way to get those answered than to talk to you?
Awesome.
Yeah, the one thing that came up from the National Fire Radio conversation, you referred to black fire, as that's an old term. It's been around for a long, long time. And then it made me think about how you're very much about when you see this, do this.
Yeah.
To have your Rolodex of things that you want to recognize and how to react to them. Would it confuse people if we try and add a term to it or call back to that term that's been around for a long time? Or is there a way to simplify it where people would be more sure of what they're seeing as opposed to wondering, is this black fire or is this just smoke?
Essentially, I want the new guy to be afraid of all smoke until I tell him something different. And then as he goes through his career, he'll learn the difference between cold smoke and hot smoke and high velocity versus low velocity, laminar versus turbulent. But for the new guy, I don't want him worried about all that. I just want him worried about smoke bad until dad tells you not to open the nozzle. And then at that point, we can start learning from experience.
Yeah, the end objective for you has always been to have guys recognize obvious cues, right? And to take effective action.
Yeah.
Know when they're winning, when they're not.
For sure.
How does the proliferation now of lithium-ion battery fires in structures complicate things for the nozzlemen? So what do they need in their Rolodex to pick up on what they are dealing with once they get inside in that regard?
Man, I don't have a whole lot of experience with lithium ion, to be honest with you. I do know that UL is doing a lot of testing on it, and they're capturing a lot of the gases and trying to figure out what all's in them. I mean, obviously, it's all detrimental to us without SCBA, but like what is flammable, what's not, I have no idea. I don't have a whole lot of experience with them. I know that Brooks does in your area, and then Mickey Farrell does a class on lithium ion as well. They're seeing a lot of that stuff in FDNY, but we're not seeing a lot of it here. I mean, we see lithium ion everywhere, but the biggest thing that we don't have that they have, we have them everywhere, but we don't have fires yet. But everybody's going to be looking towards that soon. The more of it takes over the culture.
Yeah, because I remember you often talk about understanding when you're winning and when you're not, and what are the reasons you're not. Either you're not reaching the seat of the fire, water's not going where it needs to be, it's wind-driven, or it's hoarder conditions. And I thought, well, I hadn't thought about lithium ion coming out of a room, and how do I recognize when that's the reason I'm not winning, right? What are those cues? But maybe, like you're saying, we haven't had enough of those visceral, real-life experiences to understand when that's the case.
Yeah, for sure. I for sure haven't. There's guys out there that probably have, but just like magnesium, it would be something to recognize when we're flowing water a direction and things are getting worse. There's some reason for that, because 99% of the time, water is going to make things better. And when it doesn't, we should recognize when that is happening and start asking ourselves why.
I guess maybe am I complicating it by trying to figure out the reason, and it's just as simple as we're not winning. We're not able to push this hallway, so we need to back out or stay where we're at.
It all would depend on what we have going on in that area, I would say. So like if I got a truck company dived into an offset room, I don't necessarily want to bail on them, but if nobody's there and we're not winning, we need to reevaluate. And whether that is call for the second line and hold what you got, or back out and then come back in with a new line that's higher volume, that's all going to be conditions driven. Yeah, as for being able to real time analyze, I think it's going to be pretty difficult for most people to do. Either you're winning or you're not. And either we can hold it or we can't. And then if we can't, then we need to reevaluate what we're going to do next. But a lot of that would be conditions driven in the situation, I would think. I try to make it a binary as much as possible. Lizard brain is tough to have complicated plans for. We can plan everything we want, but when it comes to it, you're either going to go or you're not. You're going to back out or you're going to move forward, either progress or not progress.
Yeah, even when thinking about heart rate, right? The research has been around for a long time about, condition red, condition gray, condition black, and your cognitive abilities, especially like you're referring to with new guys. We all were more amped up when we were newer and younger. So we have to recognize what's going on in their brain is not necessarily the same thing that's maybe going on in our brain.
Yeah, there needs to be an adult in the room. Try to add some logic to it.
Do you find as people get better at a skill, they want to do it faster when that's actually counterproductive? Because you talk a lot about, being the Bob Ross forklift bulldozer of the fire service, but maybe expand more on the importance of control and pace and how it's actually beneficial on many levels as opposed to just doing things faster because you're good at it.
I found that doing a skill slower makes you focus on the parts and pieces of the skill. Like in particular, in my skill set, capitalizing on momentum is usually what people are going to try to lean towards. And when they do that, they end up too fast. They end up sloppy. Being able to slow things down makes you really concentrate on the body mechanics of it versus capitalizing on the movement forward, the momentum of the movement, the body weight shifting, and it'll put you in a position to be too fast or not in a position to really read the environment that you're in. The slower you can do a skill set, the more controlled it will be. And most people don't have the discipline to be able to do that.
Have you ever thought of, or is there benefit to filming students while they're doing it so they can actually watch themselves?
For sure. The camera is the best training tool that I've ever used. So I used it with my probies. Almost every stretch that we did during phase, we filmed. And then it's game film. We can go back and we can watch. We can nail down specifics and get nerdy with it and how the hose fell off the shoulder and if we need to dip when we roll or if we're too close when we pull back. All that stuff is all exposed with the camera. So yeah, camera is one of the best training tools that are out there. It doesn't lie.
And are you using a stopwatch at all, or do you add that in?
I don't when I'm filming because it already has a stopwatch built into it.
Sure. But have you done drills time related if you're not filming?
Oh, yeah. Time to task. Yeah, for sure. Most definitely.
Happy to hear Jeremy sort of giving his feedback to you about writing. And I'm glad to hear that you're actually on that path. And I was thinking while I was listening to him talk that, what's the difference between presenting knowledge you've compiled, distilled and cited, and then writing it down? It can be done the same way, just in a written form. But I empathize with what you're feeling about when it's written. It just seems different for some reason.
Yeah, it's concrete, man. It's here forever. Like people forget what I say and will forget what I've said in lectures, but once you write it and it's published, it's there forever, man. I'm not concerned with what I will write will be incorrect. And like I was telling Jeremy, the biggest concern that I have is what I will write has already been written. That's been my biggest concern so far, is that I didn't make any of this up. There's a sprinkle of personal experience on top of the foundation that's been set by the giants that came before us. And that's what I struggle with.
Yeah, but I think I agree with Jeremy in the fact that your spin on how you would structure it and deliver it to the people is another perspective. I think that's what matters.
Yeah, I've been struggling with it for a long time. And like I was telling him, and like Champo always tells me, somebody's going to write the article, Kyle. Do you want it to be someone who's going to have less experience or less understanding of the subject matter? Or are you going to write the article? So that's the struggle.
And that whole idea of you can't expect that everybody's going to have a positive reaction to it. I mean, you know that from instructing and speaking on an international stage. Not everyone's going to agree with you, but there's a lot of people that could benefit and are urging you to continue. So hopefully that outwins.
Yeah. And that's the benefit of writing too. It's like Catch-22. The worst part about it is it's there forever. But the best part about it is it's there forever. It's able to be referenced in the future now. So that's the big benefit of it. Scary as well.
Along the same vein, do you ever think about succession planning with what you do? Or once you're done doing it, it goes with you? Or have you thought about passing it forward?
Oh, man, that's the goal of every class I teach. And like I was telling him, eventually I hope that there's a fire service that doesn't need my skill set. That's the whole goal. It should be the goal of every instructor, in my opinion, is to be able to deliver your information in a way to where every student can take it back and teach their own version of it. The topic stays the same, the truth stays the same, but the delivery will hopefully get better. And I hope to see a fire service that doesn't need my skill set taught to them, and it's taught to them from day one. But we ain't there yet, so we'll see.
I took that approach with peer support, and I would say often that if we all acted like peer supporters, we wouldn't need a peer support team.
Yeah, most definitely.
Are there people in the wings, though? Because some cadres, they've got people that they know, okay, this is the person that's going to be willing to pick it up and move it forward. Like we've seen with Brent. You mentioned Brent with High Rise. If you look generations back, the torch has been passed forward and people have added on to it. So is there any thought in your mind about that?
There's been a lot of guys that I've trained and then have developed their own training companies. And a lot of the instructors, they take offense to that. There's a lot of people out there that don't like it when people do that. And I personally welcome it because, as you say, it's the succession plan. Because if I blow this left knee out, Kyle's done teaching anybody anything about flow and move. You know what I mean? Like, the whole goal is to be able to teach it in a way to where it's so easy that anybody could teach it. And there's a lot of instructors out there, unfortunately, that think their stuff's proprietary and they don't want anybody else teaching their stuff. And that's unfortunate. And I get it to an extent in certain skill sets, but my particular skill set that I teach, that's the goal of it, is to teach it in a way to where anybody could teach it to anybody else. But that's the succession plan, is to develop a curriculum per se in a way to where the probie could teach it to his captain. He could take it back to the firehouse, and then eventually Kyle will not be needed. That's the whole goal. And there's a lot of spin-off instructors out there that are teaching the material, and I welcome that, and I don't shun away from that. I personally don't care. People will seek out delivery, not the information. The information's easy now. It's 2025, man. You can get the information anywhere. You can get everything that I'm going to tell anybody in Cruel Intentions out of 10 textbooks and 50 articles, but people want delivery. They want the compilation of the material, and people will seek that out still. And I'm not threatened by it. There's a lot of people that are, but I'm not.
Well, and Jeremy spoke to this too, and I fully agree. Like, you're great at distilling it and simplifying it and delivering it. That's what separates a lot of people. We are drowning in information, starving for wisdom, or we need people that can deliver the information in a way or be the filter. I speak to candidates at the academy all the time and tell them that you're in the best time of the fire service because you have everything at your fingertips. So you just need people that you trust and respect that can filter for you.
Yeah. And also, gauge when you need to read something. And that seems weird, but some things are a little bit too in depth for someone without prior knowledge. You need to start with chapter 1 before you start reading chapter 10. And I made the mistake a long time ago to where I would get new guys that were interested in fire dynamics and water application, and I'd automatically get them straight to the nerdy, and they're reading this material and they're like, I don't know what a gigawatt is. I don't know what this means. And it's like, okay, let's step back a little bit. Let's go back to the beginning, and then we'll start basic, and then I'll progress you to the point where I can blow your mind with this one. That's important too. It's like a tour guide. It's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. is what we're looking for.
And are there just things that you can fast track people through, and some things that they're going to have to, like you said, read more on their own, or B, experience in real life?
I mean, there is to an extent, but we can't schedule experience. That's the worst part about it. We want to give these guys everything we can, and we want to prepare them for every part and piece of the mysterious puzzle that we find ourselves in, but that's impossible. I try to form the message in a way, specifically with my local guys, around my built environment, like what they're most likely going to go into, and then we can start branching out into buildings that they may run fires in, or types of structures that they may run fires in, but we're going to stay with bread and butter at the very beginning stages, and then we can start reaching out a little bit. But that's that filter we talked about earlier, like lead them down the path, the easy path, and then we can start forking in the road a little bit.
Have you just gotten better and better at, say, either reading the person or reading the room or reading the crew or reading the department as to where they're at and what you need to sort of deliver to them in pieces?
Yeah, based on their follow-up questions. So when I'm going through material with somebody, I like to gauge their level of comprehension, and I'll start asking them if they understand and asking them to explain it to me, and if they can't do that, then I'll just back off a little bit and then we'll go down some other road, but that's been my hardest part, is because I have past knowledge base that I'm building off of when I read something new, and not everybody does. And I know what I've read. I could show you bookshelves of things over here that set me up for success on the next thing that I read. And sometimes it's difficult because I forget that not everybody's a nerd, and not everybody has that past knowledge base. And then when I start going down a road on a subject, I have to pump the brakes a little bit. And I'm like, all right, let's go back over here and then talk about this basic principle before we get into this advanced level principle. It would be frustrating to be like Dennis Laguerre. Like Dennis is like the smartest person in the room. Everybody goes, he answers his own questions that he asks in classes. Like, how frustrating would that be? To have to answer your own questions, and based on his level of being on the spectrum and how he formulated the question in the first place. Or he's just asking something that's up here and they're down here. But that would be pretty frustrating if I was him.
Along your journey of learning, were there times where you were confused and you had to like reread things and cross-reference things, or made you question what you just read moving your way along?
I would say everything that I read, I have to read again. Like I try to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly before I move on from it. Everything I read, unless I have like a baseline knowledge base of it and I can follow it pretty easy. But everything new that I read, I try to read at least 3 times before I put it down, and then at that point, I have a level of understanding that I'm confident that I can move to the next. I don't want to breeze through something and then miss something, you know what I mean? And then the older I get, the harder it is to comprehend some things, especially when I get, super nerdy with it. And then now I found myself in a position to where I've read all the easy stuff. And now when I get into the hard stuff, I have to go reference another book to figure out what this book said. So it becomes tough.
After going through all this material, do you have in your mind sort of could you build a chronology or an order that you would recommend to people of the things you've read?
Yeah. I mean, there's some beginning stages stuff. It's funny. That's the most common thing that people ask me is, what should I be reading? And maybe it's just because I've been so vocal about reading, and that's why they're particularly asking me that question, or people are just so interested in reading now and building their mind frame that's not just basic curriculum, which is exciting. But yeah, I usually lead them down the path of fire behavior, building construction, and water application. For the engine company, that's the first 3. I've got like the beginning stage books for that I would give them.
Sort of an order of operations that you've figured out over time.
Yeah, that's the main 3 subjects that I want the pro beyond the engine company to be very familiar with. They can start expanding their knowledge base from there, whatever direction they choose to go, but fire behavior, building construction, and water application is going to be where the engine man needs to start his journey.
Talk about writing and putting things together. It would be cool to see you put things in a chronological order in categories of, like you're describing. It would be neat for us to see your mind and how that's structured.
I think that would be scary for most people. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Maybe I should organize my bookshelf into steps, like layers 1 through, 5 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah, or even just bullet points and articles and, the ones you would put in the beginning stage. Okay, here's the next stage and here's, and if you chunked it, and then you would be able to have that in a document or at the end of the book as part of your book, as you citing where all this came from. Like, it would be cool to see how you walked through it, or how, now having walked through it, how you would do it over again if you had to do it in a smoother order. For
sure the second one, because I was scatterbrained for a long time. I would just read whatever I could get my hands on. If I found something before 1980 that was written, I had to have it. I had to have it. I had to go through it. And then now you're absolutely right. Like, after reading it, now I can put them in kind of a chronological order of, I wouldn't go there yet without going here yet. And then this guy leads to this guy, and then this book leads to that book. But yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's just as, maybe it's even more important to know the order of what you should read than it is to tell people what to read.
Yeah, what to read, yeah.
That's what you can fast track people through, is they don't have to put it all together in their brain. You've already done that for them. That would be hugely beneficial. I mean, I know I would benefit from it.
Yeah, that's deep, bro.
Yeah, so please do that.
Yeah, I'll put that on the list, bro. Yeah.
But the writing, like you've actually started, is going well. Like, where are you at
I
with
have
it?
started and thrown away more than ever. I hate reading what I've written. It's almost worth like just writing and sending it to somebody else. You know what I mean? It's because the more I read it, I'm like, nah, this is no good. Like the Book of Search, I was supposed to write the Victim on the Nozzle article for the Book of Search. And I wrote it like 9 times and I threw it away 9 times. I don't even have copies of it anymore.
Oh.
Like I would destroy it completely.
Such a loss.
I know, man. Like I would just write, 500 words and I'm like, nah, this is garbage. I can't put this in the book. It got to the point where they were waiting on me for the article. And I was like, you know what? Just print the book, bro. Yeah. It's not coming.
Just like this podcast, shout out to Brad. Like the beauty of this structure is that it's edited. So we can brain dump and then we can edit it so it's smooth for the listener, right? So yeah, 100%. I think that would be great for you to be comfortable with just brain dumping and knowing that someone else is going to structure it for you.
Yeah. And and I've even thought about utilizing some AI for some stuff too. So like the cool thing is I can take my audio, because I've been recording my lectures since I started teaching. So I've got like over 100 hours of Cruel Intentions. And every time you deliver a lecture, it's a little bit different than the last one. And sometimes we go down this rabbit hole and we don't go down that one next time. So like what I've been doing is I've been dumping my lectures into ChatGPT, and I'm sure there's better AIs out there, but I've been dumping my lectures in and then asking it to make bullet points from the lectures, just using the lecture for source material. And then at that point, it's using my words to start forming some bullet points. Some would say that's cheating, but it's my words. It's my source material, so.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it again. I don't think I'm just trying to get you past, if I can be one more person to get you past that barrier is.
Yeah.
I don't see a difference between the verbal recording and the written word. I just don't. So I think what you're doing is awesome. And I just think some people really benefit, like you have, by reading the written word. And there's just a way to structure it that people know that you're providing a compiled distillation.
Yeah.
That's okay.
My struggle with it is I don't think it's good enough. Like every time I read it, I'm like, this is garbage. I wouldn't pay for this. I'm not reading this. I'm my biggest critic.
I remember saying to Aaron at one point, you don't get to say if you're an inspiration to people or not. You don't get to say that. The people that are inspired by you actually feel that. So they're the ones that get to say whether they're inspired by you or not. So again, your audience gets to say whether it's good enough or it's not. You're not the best filter for that.
And that's what brings me back to writing something and just getting rid of it. Writing it, sending it to somebody else. Never see it again. Let them do it. Because if I sit here and read it, I'm going to throw it away. Like that's what's going to happen. It's going to be destroyed.
I mean, just like a lot of great inventors and painters, right? It's just volume.
Yeah. And it's funny. It just makes me think if Beethoven thought his stuff was good. Like no way near am I considering myself as Beethoven.
No, I understand where you're going with it 100%.
Yeah, it's the same mind frame.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you would encourage new firefighters in the service to dip their toe into instructing or maybe writing an article. So, yeah, I just think maybe we need to take our own advice sometimes.
Sure. Yeah, I'm my own worst enemy. I always have been.
Okay, so you're comfortable with the verbal word over the written. You threw away that Victim on the Nozzle. Talk about it. Tell me about what was in that article that got lost.
Well, I mean, the way I structured it, was I tried to tell a story in the article, and I think I got lost in the story, and it wasn't enough substance that I thought was, and the Book of Search is very short and to the point, and I couldn't get away from making it a long, extended story, and I couldn't sum it up to a point to where I could put it in written word. And I always thought I was leaving something out. And then when I got done with it and I thought it was good, it was like 3,500 words. And I was like, this is way too big for the Book of Search. And then I would just scrap it. The hardest part about it is finding reference material to put in and making it still readable to where someone would enjoy reading it. I'm a nerd. And if I write something that is readable to me, is it going to be readable to everybody else? That was the tough part with it. And I never could find that balance. And then the deadline hit. And I was like, print the book, bro. And just print it without it.
So if you had to explain it to me and we had the time, we had the quiet time of the station, like how would you talk to me about it?
Yeah, so victim on the nozzle is conditions driven. The way I usually teach people about it is it's all conditions driven, and the depth of the structure inside the structure would be determine what you're going to do. So plan A of every fire attack is I'm going to find a victim 10 feet inside the front door. You should prepare your initial fire attack mindset, how you show up, who's in the front yard, where your medical bag is, how easy accessible is it? And there's layers to it. But as the engine company officer, I should be expecting to find a unconscious civilian 10 feet inside the front door and not be surprised when I do that. And if I do that as the nozzleman and I find them 10 feet inside the front door and the conditions warrant me to be able to put the nozzle down, grab the victim and pull them out. And then go from there on whatever your protocols are. If you've got medics there, if you've got a driver that's going to perform basic life support there. And then the next step, plan B, would be we don't find them 10 feet inside the front door and they're in the hallway. We progress in the hallway. If I got 10 by 10 rooms, I'm going to find a hallway to the, let's say Alpha Bravo corner. I'm going to find a hallway to the 10 feet in and to the left is where we're going. So we make the left into the hallway and we have fire impingement in the hallway. Now things have to change. As the nozzleman, I don't have the ability to just put the nozzle down at that point. I have to push past the victim. If we've got fire impingement and me not flowing water in that area would negatively affect myself and the victim and reduce time frame of being able to remove the victim, then water has to be flowed in that situation. Now, however you're going to communicate that is your jargon in your own department. But the most common term that people are going to say is victim, victim, victim. And we have to discuss what that means on the hose team versus what that means on the search team. So that's different. So on the heel man at that side, whether it's a company officer or whoever the heel is, victim, victim, victim means number one, you found a victim, it's a human. And number two, you need 5 to 10 feet of hose to get past them. So that doesn't mean I'm going to drop my hose line and go straight to the victim. What that means is I have to bring you 5 to 10 feet of hose, then go for the victim because I want you to push past that victim as the nozzleman. So now, however that looks, depending on the space that you're in, you're either going to step over or step around and then open the line to build time frame in for the heel to come up and make contact with the victim. Make contact with the victim. It's the same way we make contact with every victim. You find one, you find two. We sweep under them. As soon as we sweep under them, we get them in a position to move. Now I've got to make a decision. So do I have enough time and space and the conditions allow me to remove the victim all the way out? Or do I need to isolate to an offset room? Do I have another crew inside that I could hand off to? It's the last thing that I want to do is leave a probie on the nozzle by himself. So best case scenario would be plan A would be isolate to a room, call on the radio, hey man, come to the window on the alpha side, got a victim in this room, return back to the hose line. Plan B would be handed off to another search crew or another engine company behind me. And plan C, worst case scenario, would be leave the probie in the hallway and remove the victim all the way out. Because if I have hands on the victim and I bring them all the way out and there's no one to pass to, I'm not leaving them. So now I'm in a position to remove my mask, do CPR on a victim in the front yard while I left my probie in the hallway. That's why it's low on the hierarchy. And then at that point, what happens when we find them in the fire room? What happens when we find them on the stairwell? A lot of that stuff is all conditions driven and location driven inside the building. So that would be what I would write down, but not so many words. I guess more words. Yeah.
As far as the body mechanics, the skill of flowing and moving, at what point would you be adding in the ability to step up and over or step around? I don't see that as a common thing that firefighters are training on. At what point do you add that in?
That's a tough one, man, because the majority of the time I'm teaching nozzle mechanics, I have very limited time frame. There are some classes that we teach with Brothers in Battle that are structured around that particular skill set. DIY is one of them. So DIY and Beyond the Pre-Connect that we teach for Brothers in Battle, it's built into the curriculum. So at that point, they shall go through victim on the nozzle in the nozzle mechanic station. But there's time allotted for that. So the majority of the time when I'm teaching, I have only enough time allotted to take you from stationary to flow and move with a heel. Now we're going to talk to each other and make sure we're all speaking the same language and then push in the hallway. Or they'll book me just to do stairwell pushes or, something like that. But rarely do I have enough time to go through all of that unless I'm doing a hybrid for a fire department and I'm specifically gearing that particular class for a fire department and they've asked me to cover that in particular. But like we were talking about with the books, there's layers. So the majority of the time I'm teaching basic nozzle mechanics. So I'm treating everybody like they're probies, they know nothing. And then we're all going to grow together over the next hour or 45 minutes or 30 minutes that we have. But getting them to a point to where they have solid body mechanics, they can flow water 90 up, left and right. They can do that while staying upright and putting water where they want to put it. Then move them to flow and move and heel and jargon. getting him that and then cover victim on the nozzle. We're talking 4 to 5 hours before that would even get to that point. And there's not enough time in most places, unfortunately.
So in the Brothers in Battle class, it's specific skills at that station?
Yes.
But currently there's no advanced nozzle work class that you would put on where you're taking guys and girls they're already there. Now you can really hone them.
That would be nice to do, but I guess we would have to have some type of program like Aaron and them that has like alumni to be able to know who's done what. But yes, on the Brothers in Battle side, it's built in the curriculum. So like the DIY class, it's a brainchild of Gary Lane. The DIY is do-it-yourself engine, and it's more so, he may be mad at me for exposing this, but it's not an engine class. It's a decision-making class that's masked in an engine class. I don't know if you've ever taken DIY before.
No.
The scenarios are based on fireground experiences. And I always tell them when I'm teaching nozzle mechanics there on DIY, it's like I have a magic 8-ball, and you're going to locate a victim on the nozzle here in about an hour and a half. So like you have to have a plan for that because we're going to make that happen. In an hour and a half, it's going to happen to you. And how fantastic would it be if we could all know beforehand, right? Like you're going to work and like, hey man, 9 hours from now at midnight, you're going to find grandma on the stairwell. What are you going to do about it? Like you're going to be pushing the stairwell and you're going to find her on the landing. Now what? And then now we have 9 hours to prepare for that. You know what I'm saying? Like how cool would that be? And it's like Stone. Have you ever talked to Shannon Stone?
No.
So Shannon Stone would be a good one to get on here, man. He's super in depth, very intelligent guy. And like one of the things he always talks about is judge yourself by your children's standards. He's got a crystal ball and he's going to tell you in 3 hours, you're going to go to your house on fire and your kid's going to be on the second floor. How are you going to prepare that rig over there for the next 3 hours? Knowing that my crystal ball just told you you're going to get your kid off the second floor. Would you go check your halyard? Would you go check, make sure you got all the air in your bottle? What is 4,000 good enough now? Is 4,500 where you want to be? What radio channel is your radio on? Are you going to practice masking up with gloves on for the next 3 hours? Like, what are your weaknesses that you don't want to expose themselves when you're throwing the ladder to the window to go get your kid? How cool would that be to have that? And we should be in that mind frame anyway, but.
Yeah, it stuck with me from Tasarsky. He'd always say, tell yourself you're being complacent and you'll stop doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you could structure a class because people sign up for advanced forcible entry, right? And you just leave it up to the people themselves and you could say what the prerequisites are. It'd be beneficial, right? I think there's been enough people that you've been in front of that have taken what you've taught and have really honed it and would benefit from, you saying, okay, we're here now. There's more. Let's do this now.
Yeah. There would have to be like a side skill station that like if we discover that you're not as at the point where you think you are, we can send you over there. But yeah, I think that would be pretty cool, man. Because like basic nozzle mechanics, a lot of people don't sign up for classes that are called basic. BIB has a class called basic irons, and that class is anything but basic. like if you think you got basic irons down, you go to basic irons, you're going to be humbled. And it's like FTTN, FTTN's engine 1 through 6, truck 1 through 6, so like they're progressively getting harder. And that's where Jim, found out about FTTN is he had to do that. He had to have a tiered system because he would have advanced classes. His tagline is there's no such thing as advanced training. There's only advanced performance. Either you have basic performance or you have advanced performance. And some guys think they have advanced performance, but really they have basic performance. So being able to find out that about yourself is very valuable.
Yeah. So to that point, I think it's okay for a person to end up in a class that's over their head. You paid good money and that money was well spent for you to have the epiphany like, oh shit, I'm not where I thought I was and I'll stay here and I'll take in as much as I can, but I definitely have to go back to the drawing board on this and start at stage 1.
For sure. And I've tried to be part of cadres that design their scenarios to expose weakness in a positive and reinforcing manner. Like Oathkeepers is my favorite conference, dude, ever, especially on the engine side. The truck side is truck side, but I don't have a whole lot of weight on that. But I've been a part of the engine company side since 2017. And the engine company scenarios and all the skill sets are designed to expose holes in your game in a positive, reinforcing way that we're there to pick you up off the ground and say, all right, man, let's fix this problem now. And those are some of the best classes that I like to participate in because you see light bulbs go off. You witness a live humbling of someone, and then you have the opportunity to pick them up off the ground and say, hey, man, let's fix this problem that you have in your game right now. Like not next week, not next Tuesday. We're going to fix it right now. And then give you the skills and information to go home and then make sure that's not a hole in your game tomorrow. Because people don't know what they don't know. If they've never been put in a situation where they got to dive head first off of 35 on the 4th floor in the truck class, they won't know that they have trouble with that. If they've never climbed an aerial holding 2 saws and a hook, they don't know that they're going to have trouble with that. One of the coolest things that I've done with BIB was inside saws for our refined by fire class. So inside saws is based off experiences that Cody's had on FDNY in Portland, situations where he was in zero visibility and ran across a roll down gate, or a public storage facility with internal storage and they've got zero visibility and the saw chokes out. So like inside saws, they chase them with SCBA bottles. So you got a gas powered saw that you're chasing the power head with an SCBA bottle to keep it running.
Wow.
In zero visibility with smoke conditions that are going to choke the saw out. So like some of those things that you won't think about, I'd never thought about until I started teaching with Cody. And he was like, he gave me the little, because in BIB you get these little pamphlets and they're like, all right, man, this is what's covered in this station. And I started reading it and I was like, holy shit, this is really going down. And like, these guys are going to be in live fire, zero visibility, chasing the power head with an ACBA bottle. And he's like, yeah, dude, this is going down. So it's been pretty cool to expose holes in my own game as I've been helping these guys teach. Because in BIB, you got to shadow these stations multiple times before you're even allowed to talk about them to a student. And I'm not there yet on a lot of those classes. So I was brought into the cadre on the engine side, and I've participated in VES Beyond the Door and basic irons and refined by fire, but I'm there learning. I'm never teaching yet.
How would an instructor know where they can help you until they see where they can help you? And then as a student, we should be chasing that stuff. That must be the way it is for you now. As you got your mind blown multiple times, you're thinking, what else don't I know? Like, what else have I been ignorant about? What else is out there? What other nuggets are there? You start chasing it.
Yeah. I was a pain in the ass for a long time for a lot of instructors, because I always want to go take their classes. Because like what FDIC used to be was the Fire Department Instructors Conference. That's what FDIC stands for. So it was a conference for fire department instructors, not fire department students. It's now changed into a vendor show with fire department students. But like, how cool would it be to have a conference with nothing but instructors and we teach ourselves our own classes? And that's how you'd really start exposing holes in your game, is get the best of the best in the same room, and then we teach each other. So that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and no matter how much you know, there's probably somebody in the room that knows one thing that you probably want to know.
Yeah, there's always somebody smarter than me, dude. Like, that's the cool thing about the fire service in 2025. I meet dudes that are way smarter than me all the time, and I love it. They don't like it when I pester them for knowledge. It's like sometimes, like first time I ever met Jerry Herbst, I was like, hey man, what are you reading? He's like, what are you talking about? I ain't reading nothing right now. I was like, no, man, come on. Give me something. Give me something I didn't have yesterday. And then they found out I wasn't just some creepy kid asking them crazy questions.
But I think even beyond the people that we recognize that are way smarter than us, there's probably people on our level or even below that have one thing. I just know it's happened to me so many times where you've taught something for a long time and then someone that you're sharing information with is like, oh, why not just do this? And you're like, why? How did I not know that for this many years? And it took you to just do that thing in front of me. Like, it's amazing. That keeps me excited. And I just find I'm chasing that stuff out of people all the time. I want to see the thing and I'll change immediately because it's better.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of guys get wrapped up sometimes, is there is a difference between better and worse, and there is a difference between faster and slower. There's a lot of guys that are afraid to find that out about themselves, unfortunately. But that's why I always like new guys. Probies are my favorite people ever, because like now a probie is different than when I was a probie in 2002. 2025 is different, dude. Like, these guys got everything at their fingertips, and like they can read faster than I can read now. Like they have access to all of it. It's always been cool to see young guys eat up with the job and go way deep. But sometimes you got to bring them back, like the blue pill, red pill analogy. Like it's good to take a red pill, just don't take the whole bottle. Like one red pill at a time, maybe a half.
Which touches back onto you helping categorize and structure the path.
For sure.
Referencing Tasarsky twice now. He would spend hours with them, and he very often found that a lot of them didn't keep going with it. So he started like, okay, I'm going to give you step one, go do that, come back and see me. People that kept coming back, he kept feeding them more and more, as opposed to dumping everything all at once onto people and hoping that maybe somebody would appreciate it and dive deeper.
I think that's one of the things that is a downfall of Dennis, is that he wants to give it all to you. The way his brain works is not the way our brain works. Like normal human, he's a superhuman, and he just needs to realize he's a superhuman. It's tough to have conversations with dudes like that and try to get him to stay on track, because he is thinking 5 steps ahead when I'm still on step 1 right now. Like, you have to really explain step 1 to me before we move away from that.
There's a lot of red string going on in his brain.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's like a Beautiful Mind, where he's got all the formulas floating in the air. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but I love Dennis, dude. He is is on another level, man.
Yeah.
I'll love discussing things with him. We're trying to do and spoiler alert, we're trying to do an episode series on the pipemen called The Chronicles of Extinguishment with Dennis. And just kind of like what we're talking about, we're going to have him brain dump for like 3 hours and then somehow formulate it into a 3-part series. Because it needs to be documented. It needs to be recorded. I want him to just unload with no prep, no nothing, just dump it.
That'd be awesome.
He's on another level, man.
Yeah, maybe that's something we don't always recognize either, as we look back a generation and there are these major names, that are legends. And there's legends that are among us right now. The next generation is going to look back and didn't have the opportunity to be around and meet and talk to. So we need to have a huge amount of gratitude and appreciation for the fact that they're here right now and we can learn so much from them.
Yeah, one cool thing I'm working on right now in all the midst of everything else, it's a slow process, but I have been recording, and like I was talking about my own lectures, I've recorded lectures that I've attended since like 2014. So like I've got hundreds of hours of industry leaders' lectures recorded audio. And what I'd like to do is like take all of Ray McCormick's lectures or Kurt Isaacson's or Dennis or Rob Fisher or, Dave McGrail or John Salka. I'd like to take all the lectures that I have on recording and then transcribe them and then hand them to them in a document. Like Kurt's always talking about writing the county fire tactics textbook, and then Ray's writing a book right now. And I just want to give their transcripts to them and be like, hey, man, your book's already written. Like, here it is right here. I've got like 150 hours of Kurt's classes.
Wow.
I've sat through. I'm trying to transcribe. I don't have a really good program. I'm using Hindenburg. I don't know if you ever used Hindenburg for transcriptions. If you know of any, let me know that are pretty good. The problem is that Kurt doesn't speak English. Problem. Like Kurt speaks,
Kurt speaks Kurt.
Yeah, so he doesn't speak English. So like I know there's some programs out there that he could read like a card and then get certain vowel sounds and everything just so it could learn his voice.
I see, right.
But what I found was transcribing Kurt in hundreds of hours, I have to go back and read line for line and listen 10 seconds and then type. Listen 10 seconds. And if I'm going to do that, I might as well just court report, transcribe this thing,
Sure.
But there has to be a better way, but that was the problem I also had in Germany as well. We don't speak the Queen's English. So when I went and taught in Germany, I would say things that we all take for granted as nomenclature that we use in the American Fire Service. And like, there's no word for that. Like, I don't know a translation for that. You need to back up a little bit. You got to say something different, but we don't speak the Queen's English.
Did you have translators there and even in reverse for them to you?
Yeah, there was, I believe, 5 different languages spoke on the fireground.
Wow.
So yeah, we had translators there. Some of the live fire exchanges were pretty wild because like we'd have dudes on the nozzle from Barcelona that only spoke Spanish, and the truck crew would be from Germany and only spoke German, and they're trying to communicate with each other in live fire. And like I'm just screaming, "Open the nozzle!" in English, and nobody understands anyway. So I did learn Vasamage. Vasamage in German means open up, I believe, is what the term is. But whenever I said that, it translated to them opening the bale. So I kept saying it. So I have no idea what it actually means. But yes, we had translators there with us. So I'm going back in May this year, and then I'm supposed to go back with Elkhart and UL in 27. But Brothers in Battle is going back to Germany in 26 in May. The end of April, early May. And that's how it goes. We get there and we usually spend about 2 days in Stuttgart. And then we go to Kolsheim, which is where the training center is. And then in Kolsheim, we spend about 2 days with the translators, go through our lectures, go through the hands-on, make sure that what we're saying can be translated very easily. In my situation, I actually showed them body mechanics that they could then teach and explain what we're doing and why we're doing it in the different languages. And then we tell them what we want built out. And then they spend the next like 6 days building out what we want. And then like 6 days later, after we go travel around Germany, we come back and everything's built out, and then we're ready to rock. And then we do live fire for 3 days.
Wow.
So it's been fun.
I'm sure a lot of departments could empathize with it feeling like a Tower of Babel within their own department, and it's all the same language. What things did you learn about firefighting from them that sort of changed things for you?
I didn't get exposed. So we went down there to teach what we do.
Okay.
So I didn't really we saw the rigs. We toured the stations and saw their rigs. We asked them a little bit about their fireground operations and more so what they don't do so we could capitalize on the differences between what we do and they do. So like in the German mindset, at least, there wasn't a whole lot of rescue mindset. And honestly, everywhere that I've talked to people that aren't in America, the rescue mindset is not at the forefront. But granted, the Pompiers from France, those dudes are on it. Like the rescue mindset in France is of the forefront. And it's just kind of weird. The Germans are highly influenced from the Swede side. So it's very Swedish based with gas cooling and low amounts of water, high pressure, small droplet, cool from a distance and gas. Never open the nozzle until we get to the seat of the fire, totally opposite of what we're teaching. We're teaching surface cooling and cooling boxes as we move and treating ourselves as if we're unprotected to ensure that we're changing environments that's beneficial for the toddler in their pajamas. Like that's not their mindset, and not to their own abilities. It's not that they don't care. They just haven't been taught anything else. And there was no rescue mindset to be spoken of with the people that we met, at least. Like I can't even tell you how many times we had to pull people aside and teach them how to search with their hands. Like they would investigate everything with their hands. Like if they found a water bottle or, a pile of clothes, they would investigate it so long and it would take so long for them to find out that it's not something they need to be searching and then moving on. And we had to pull them aside, grab a translator and said, tell this man he's searching for people, not quarters. And then they don't understand what quarters are. So if I tell them you're searching for people, not quarters, they just look at me. And it's like coins. They're not looking for coins. They're looking for me. Did you find me? Yes or no? No. Did you find something that I could be in? Yes or no? No. Then move on. Off we go. And it took us having those conversations with them because it's like Disneyland when we go down there. Rob Fisher told me that before I went down there. He was like, just think of it like it's Disneyland. When you leave there, they will probably never do anything that you're doing, but they get to experience it while they're there. Like they're bringing us there to be American firemen for, 3 days. Well, beautiful country, man. Amazing food. I can't wait to go back. That's the thing I miss about it the most is everything was fresh. Like breakfast is a little different, fresh fruit and cold cuts, yogurt, that was different. But everything was fresh, dude. Like I miss the pretzel bread more than anything, but their food is like way better than our food. Way better.
What'd you think of their gears and their setup, their equipment?
Oh, I still use their gear. So what I teach in, the black pants that you see pictures of me in, those are German pants. So it's made by S-Guard. They're the most comfortable pants that I've ever worn. And they hold up pretty well in live fire, too. I actually saw my buddy Thomas Phillip at Water on the Fire, and he knows somebody that works for S-Guard, the company that makes the pants that I wear. And I ripped my knee pad, and I'm like, hey, man, you got to call some guys. Just have them send me like 10 knee pads. Because when I got them, they're very comfortable, but they're not made durable. So like I had to remove the knee pads completely and then re-sew them on because we're pretty hard on gear. And that was one thing I noticed while I was in Germany is the gear was so comfortable. It was very easy to move around in. It's not 3 layers like ours. It's not heavy when it gets wet. The problem was it just didn't hold up as robust as ours is. So like that pendulum, you can't get something for nothing, right? But it's the most comfortable pair of pants that I've ever worn. It's like sweatpants almost. Like it feels like sweatpants, like baggy sweatpants. And it doesn't feel like the layered gear that we use in America. And it holds up pretty well in live fire. There was no rules over there while we were in Germany. Like we had made wind-driven fires. We had no rules on pallet construction, no rules on fire dynamics. We did some pretty gnarly stuff down there, man. And it held up. We also wore ponchos as well. So like we would wear their gear, sock hood, gloves, and then air pack, which was negative pressure, which was pretty weird for me because I'm used to positive pressure. So negative pressure was a little strange, not having to pull to create the airflow. And I can't even tell you how it works, but I know the bottle lasted longer. So I think it was the same size, but there was obviously liters and PSI conversions and KPA. It had air in it, so I was happy with it, but it was negative pressure, so that was different. But then we wore ponchos over them as well. And you're going to some serious stuff when they tell you have to wear a poncho so you don't burn my air pack off your back. And I was like, okay, we're in serious business now. Like, all right, let's go. But it was pretty cool.
We're putting the tinfoil on the outside of our helmets. Yeah.
yeah, it was gnarly.
So not that we need to go back to petch coats and boots, but yeah, maybe talk to me about gear a bit more now that you've experienced that. Like you talk about how we need to be operating as if we're unprotected. And also you talk a lot about, you're coming in with 6 layers on your ass and until your gear saturates, you don't know that it's hot. So you need other cues to open up the nozzle. So would we benefit from, not that this is going to happen, but just would we benefit from gear being less protective in a sense so that we would react better?
I think that it would be beneficial for the unprotected civilian. I'm not going to be the one to publicly state that we should start removing gear, or we should make gear less effective than it is. But if we had a level of protection that was lighter and gave us the ability to sense the environment that we were in a little better, I think that you would find people flowing water a little faster. Like Oakland, this is going back to Dennis, Oakland didn't have bunker pants until the 90s. It was early to mid 90s before Oakland actually wore bunker pants. They would just wear coats and their Nomex pants. And they had very little people with burns to their knees and burns to their legs because they flowed water. They had to, and that's like I tell dudes all the time when I'm teaching them. It's like, you didn't have to tell the 1960s fireman when to open the nozzle, because he had no respiratory protection. He had no sock hood. He didn't have the gloves that we have. He didn't have 6 layers of protection. Like, flow and move was the plan. Like, that's how they would breathe in the structure. They needed the neutral plane to breathe. They needed the airflow inside that they were creating with the air entrainment of their nozzle to breathe, and we just stepped backwards in time. Now we're so protected. But yes, I think that it would be better for the unprotected civilian if we were less protected and could react to the environment quicker. But that's a hard sell, dude.
Well, it's tough because you look at some of the rescues that were made and you see the gear afterwards and it's burnt to a crisp. And it's like, if they didn't have that gear, they wouldn't have been able to make that rescue and survive. So you can argue it both ways.
It's all perspective, right? Like, I'm speaking from the engine company side. If I was on the truck company, I would want 9 layers of protection if I'm diving in ahead of the hose line. You know what I mean? So that's different because I'm not able to control the environment as much as the engine company. Obviously, I can isolate, locate, isolate, communicate's the truck company's job. So like, I can isolate. I've got water cans that I could take with me, but it's different than being in a position to either instantaneously change the environment for the better or intentionally not change the environment based on what I do with the tool that I brought in. And it always kind of worried me when people would tell people not to open the nozzle till they got to see the fire. And it's like, well, obviously the guy that's telling you that's never been a fire victim. I've never been a fire victim. I've never been in my pajamas in the hallway waiting on the engine company to make the room, but I have empathy for them. And if we were in a position to be less protected on the engine company on the line, you would have empathy for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, Bob, the pizza guy, would open the line in the hallway, and if Bob, the pizza guy, would do it, why won't you do it?
I fully understand, too, the perspective of the moment you fall through a floor into a basement, you're going to wish you had the most protective gear you could possibly be wearing, right? So I get it. I just find these thought experiments interesting, especially when you talk about the gear being slightly different, the unprotected 1960s firefighter. And I guess we're way more likely as humans to react to our own experience physically than we are to react to things we're trying to train ourselves to recognize because we don't have the visceral experience.
Most definitely. And then, like we were talking about earlier, context is important. Being able to read conditions and react to them is all based on your level of experience. And we can't schedule experience. It's based on either positive or negative experiences. When I did that in the past, it did this. And when I saw this in the past, it did that. Now the good thing about 2025 is we've got YouTube, we've got helmet cams for each other. We've got GoPro footage. Now you don't have to wait on that experience to know what it's going to do. Now, as Aaron so eloquently says, you can bag fires a lot easier now that we can start predicting some of these fires in a box. Now I can teach the kid that has no fires under his belt how to read conditions to bag fires, before he has to make all the mistakes that I made to learn all the things that I had to learn the hard way.
Oh, so I finally got the opportunity to flow with the turbo today.
Okay.
So Kraken XO, 1 3/4, TFT 7/8 nozzle, good setup. Man, the turbo with that setup was just, I sort of blew my mind. It's already easy to handle, and it was way easier to handle. And I put like 5 feet of hose in front of me, and it's like laser straight. They talk about how it makes crappy hose good and good hose great. I know you've mentioned with the blade pattern is that it makes a not great nozzleman good and a really good nozzleman great too. So yeah, I just want to touch on that and the fact that I finally got to flow that and their 7/8 the force. And then the 2 blades, the 160 at 50 and the 175 at 45. So it was really cool today to kind of get hands on all that and flow all of it.
I like the idea of the turbo, specifically if you don't have the ability to change your hose. So like, a lot of people are stuck with decisions. Like, hose is a 15-year investment or more for most agencies. And usually the guy who's buying that hose doesn't use the hose. He's going to call a vendor and say, hey, I need a fire hose. What kind of fire hose you need? I need yellow hose. I need it to be cheap because I'm buying a bunch of it. And then they make poor decisions, and it sets the operational side up for success or failure based on their purchase. But yeah, the turbo is revolutionary in that aspect, man. But I will tell you, I've had some negative experiences on highly robust hose like True ID. You put the turbo on True ID, it's going to be very hard to manipulate. So like the pendulum can swing to the other side. I've been doing a lot of demos with Key where we match and mismatch hose lines. And one thing that I've noticed more than anything is the lack of maneuverability that I have with True ID at 100 PSI. We would use 150 at 100 because we're trying to keep the flow rate all the same, just different pressures. 150 at 50, 150 at 75, 150 at 100 on all styles of Key, just so they can feel the differences and why this particular style of hose is meant for this back pressure. Because nozzle pressure is the same thing as back pressure. So like it's the back pressure in the last 3 feet. And I think it would be pretty close to what 100 PSI would feel like on True ID, which is like a 2x4 out in front. I can't maneuver it over my head. I can't move it over left and right. But just like any other piece of equipment, you use it outside its design window and you should expect negative results. But making Big 10, which is meant for 75 PSI, act like True ID at 50, that's a win for a department that has nothing but Big 10. So the pendulum can swing both ways. And I'm so glad that they made the product because it opens up windows of opportunity for folks that can't make those decisions or have hand-me-down hose that's made, in the 90s. But I fear that the wrong guy is going to get a hold of that device and use it as an excuse to buy poor hose. Like I can pay for this poor hose and put this device on it and make it act like quality hose, which it's still going to have low bid hose problems. It's still going to delaminate. It's still going to fall apart faster. The rigidity of the outer jacket's not going to be the same because it's cheap hose. That's the fear I have with it. But that's with any device, or any piece of equipment. The wrong guy gets it in the wrong hands. It could go south, but you can't really predict all that.
I hadn't thought about it on that high end, and I hadn't thought about it the purposely misusing it.
Yeah, for sure. There is some benefits of using it on high quality hose. Like if you find yourself gating discharges a lot, like if your water supply is high. My buddy in Casper, Wyoming usually has 110 intake pressure or above because he's very hilly in Wyoming, so like his gravity feed hydrant systems are giving him a ton of intake pressure. So like if you're in a situation where you're having to gate valves a lot because you have a lot of intake pressure coming in, the back pressure device will take some of that. So you don't necessarily have to gate, depending on what pump pressure is going to be because you're over pumping the device. So like there's some benefit there, but just like anything, you got to weigh both benefit and variable. Is the positive of the variable worth what I'm getting out of it and what it could potentially cause me on the fire ground? You got to look at every piece of equipment like that, like the gated Y or a ball valve versus a gate valve. There's all variables with every piece of equipment we have. You just got to figure out which one's best suited. You
start to realize why someone like Dennis ends up speccing trucks, right? You start caring about water flow and nozzles, and next thing you know, you're caring about hose, and then it's how it's loaded on the truck, and then you're doing hose beds. It's like, now I got to spec the truck.
That's right. All roads lead to the pump, man.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
When's the next class? Where are you at next?
I'm supposed to be teaching in early December at a department just west of me, but they scheduled their Christmas party at the time that I was supposed to be there. So I'm actually off until January. So I'm going to spend some time with my family. Next weekend, we're going to Orlando to go through Universal parks. And last time we were there was like 7 years ago. We went through all the Disney stuff and Universal, but it's going to be nice to spend some time with family and be on an airplane because it's somewhere that I'm choosing to go and not teach. Coming back from Pensacola was my 76th flight.
Of 2025?
2025, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So my flight out to Orlando will be 77.
Has that been the most in a year, or is that pretty steady?
No, I had over 80 last year. And these are all segments as well. Like those aren't 75 trips. Some trips I've got, like when I go to Canada, I got 3 flights, so Germany was 3. So it just depends. But yeah, I'm excited to be in a fire service where instructors are less needed. I will stop teaching when the phone stops ringing. I don't strive to travel and teach all the time, but as long as people want it, I'm going to provide it. I hope for a fire service that we don't need as much instruction and the academy level has matched the street to where it almost puts us out of business. That would be an awesome fire service to work in. I think there would be less civilian fatalities, obviously less firefighter fatalities, which should be the ultimate goal.
I think even at that point, though, man, there is something to quality instructors and the way they speak, the way they teach, the feeling that they impart, the inspiration that they cause. So I think even knowing there's plenty of people that know the information because they've heard it from you and others, and they still want to come hear you talk. Like, I just think there's, so I'm just saying that the phone may not stop ringing, even though the information is proliferated across the service. A lot of us would still want you to come and give the talk, man. Like, we just like hearing it. So. Yeah.
About delivery, man. So I try to tell people all the time, it's about delivery. People want delivery. I could show you my bookshelf right now and tell you where Cruel Intentions came from, and where, Shoop's class came from, and where a lot of Aaron's source material came from. But people want packaging and delivery. That's what makes it to where we could throw it against the wall and stick it. Because like you were saying, you can easily go down the wrong rabbit hole too soon. Like, now I need to come back out and go down that rabbit hole first.
Yeah, and I don't know if we'll ever get away from the fact that someone coming from the outside and giving a talk, no one knows them. There's just not any prior history. There's no bad feelings. And it's just cleaner sometimes when someone from the outside comes in. And it's refreshing too, right? Just different perspective.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a suitcase and the same message to get the point across to somebody.
Well, I'm glad you're not at the point where the phone stopped ringing. Or at least we know now all we got to do is phone, and the phone will ring and you'll answer it, and we can likely book you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I have conversations with dudes all the time about random topics. And you know what? It's really surprising to me that they wouldn't think that I wouldn't answer the phone. People send me Facebook messages and Instagram messages through Smoothbore Cartel all the time. They're like, hey, man, I got this question about this hose or this nozzle, and I'll shoot them my phone number. And they're like, hey, man, I'm surprised that you wanted to talk on the phone about this. I was like, hey, dude, we're just dudes, man. That's where a lot of people go wrong, is that just because we teach on the circuit or we teach nationally or internationally, and in some cases, we're just dudes. That's why we do this. We're just dudes that want to talk fire shit.
Yeah.
And the more that we can talk about, the better. Mm-hmm. And if I can help you fix a problem in your organization, you know what you're probably going to do? You're going to help your neighboring organization fix that problem.
Yeah.
And then they're going to fix 2 more problems, and 2 problems turn to 4 problems, and 4 problems turn to 8 problems, right? That's what we should all be doing this for anyway.
There's a feedback to you that's a good feeling and keeps you going.
For sure.
Well, dude, yeah, on that note, but I appreciate you, and I always value the time we have when we talk.
For sure. I'm coming to Canada next year, I think.
I have heard that, but I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah. Well, you can edit that out if it's not going to happen.
No,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Must be June.
It seems pretty likely, so I was stoked to hear that. Yeah, because I wasn't able to stay for the last time you were up, so I'm stoked to make it happen this time.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited, man. I always like going to Canada. I went to PEI this year.
Okay, how was that?
I was this far on the map from where the Titanic sank. It was a couple hundred miles, but it looks pretty close on the map, closer than I've ever been. So Brooks was telling me I was closer to France than I was America when I was there. But PEI was cool, dude. They had some pretty interesting construction that I wasn't familiar with. Some very beautiful churches. And the students were amazing. They were the most engaged students that I've seen in a long time. But I don't know how much training from our side of the border comes up that way. So it may be once in a blue moon or whatever, but they were really engaged students. And they built a nice prop. I sent them the double E prop plans. They built the double E. It was pretty cool. But PEI was beautiful, man.
I asked Aaron this recently, so I'm going to ask you too. Do you feel that we have momentum in the fire service, or just a positive feedback loop now that is moving in the right direction?
I think so. I think there's enough people speaking the same truth that it's hard to ignore now. There's still the camps, that are out there that we conflict on some information, which is unfortunate. The problem is on the engine company side, the things that we do conflict about are very important. Man, I don't want to call anybody out on anything, but there's some really popular dudes out there teaching some things that conflict with flowing water and when to do it. And it's unfortunate that simple concept has caused people to be in this camp or that camp. And we should all be in the same camp, specifically on that particular topic.
Because it's the same facts.
Yeah. The problem is that a lot of people's personal experiences are misconstrued to relate to survivability. And then people are put into a position to vocalize visibility being tied with survivability. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to say too much to where
you're doing a great job.
Okay. But visibility and survivability are 2 different things. And no matter how you feel about it, the human airway begins to scar at 125 degrees Fahrenheit. Human skin begins to be destroyed at 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, no matter how you feel about it, no matter if you can see or you can't see, that temperature still negatively affects the unprotected civilian. And there's people out there that are still teaching not to open the nozzle because you're going to steam folks. And it's like, well, let's back up a little bit here. What temperature is it that's going to cause liquid water to change to condensed and uncondensed steam? That's 212 and above. Like, well, we just talked about 125 and 200, right? So like, what's the alternative? If I'm flowing water into a space that's above 212 degrees Fahrenheit, the alternative is trachea damage and human skin destruction. You know what I'm saying? So like, what are we talking about here? It's frustrating at times to have logical conversations with people that allow their personal experience to cloud facts.
Which I guess touches back to what we were saying about gear. It's easy from the overprotected seats.
Yeah. From the expensive seats. Yeah.
If they had more of a visceral experience, they would maybe change their mind.
I would agree. You know, a buddy of mine said that if everybody wasn't wearing sock hoods, or if you took your left glove off as the nozzleman, you may find yourself opening that bail a little bit faster. The guys in Oakland in the 90s, man. Guys in Oakland in the 90s didn't burn their legs on hot embers because they flowed water. You know, they had to flow water because they weren't wearing bunker pants.
Which would be like the reverse of because Aaron has said before, like if I make it better for the victim, I by definition make it better for me.
Facts.
But the reverse would be if I'm making it better for me because I have to, it by definition makes it better for the victim. Yeah, it goes. I hadn't thought about that in both ways. So that's cool that you framed it.
Yeah, the air pack didn't invent interior fire tack. Interior fire tack invented the air pack.
And the air pack took away a lot of the cues or the instinctual reaction for our own safety.
Sure. Most definitely. We don't have to fight in a phone booth anymore. You know, we have to teach people to fight in a phone booth because now they're wearing respiratory protection and Nomex space gloves. They don't have to fight in a phone booth. They can have that long distance relationship, you know, and they can wait to open the nozzle to engage distant cooling. But you passed by that couch right there and there's a toddler on there and you left 600 degrees in this living room, toddler's going to have a bad day. And that's where the mindset of Bob Ross comes in. Like, I want you to paint, you know, I want you to paint and I want you to paint all the boxes in the conditions that require it. You know, like context is important for folks. Like beans on the stove, got smoke 2 inches away from the ceiling height, and I don't have visibility issues where I'm at. Walk to the back and put the fire out. You know, but if I've got more than 50% of the space filled with black turbulent smoke and heat, smoke is where the heat is. Don't just leave it behind you. You know, it's like wildland fires. You're passing through the green. So we wouldn't pass through the green. We want to pass through the black. And if I can't pass through the black and I'm passing through the green and I can't backburn it, I'm going to wet the green as I pass through it because it's harder for the green to burn if it's wet. The living room's no different.
I think I remember Dennis talking about that with, say, like an office space. If you wet all the office space down to where the fire is going to come to, then you're basically doing exactly what you're saying. That's the way to remove the fuel from the fire.
Correct. Yeah, because we can't take the richness out of it. You got fuel, heat, oxygen. You know, in a situation that requires it, you either want to remove the fuel, remove the heat, or you want to remove the oxygen. Well, I can't remove the fuel physically as the engine company. And if I perform ventilation with horizontal ventilation going to the front door, it's going to bring oxygen into the building, which is what I want, because the building is occupied until we say it's not. So I want cool, clean oxygen coming to the building at an extremely high rate, but I also have that fuel that's hot. So like the fire triangle allows me to control oxygen, heat, or fuel. I don't want to starve the building of oxygen, so we take that one off. I can't take the richness out of the fuel, so it's only left the one. And the one is the heat. I can return that fuel that I can't remove very easily as the engine below its ignition temperature. And if I do that, it doesn't matter how much oxygen I'm letting in the building. So that's the mind frame that we have to get people in, is control what you can control. And if we are going to consider the building to be occupied until we say it's not, I mean, it's occupied everywhere. It's easy for me to go through the front door and limit the oxygen into the building for my safety. But I want cool, clean oxygen coming down the opposite side of the hallway, going to that offset room over there, or going upstairs to the bedrooms. But that comes at a price, specifically with hot, fuel-rich gases in the building.
Have you found the hardest habit to impart to people or get to ingrain is, you know, cross the threshold right up over your head? Like, do you find that guys tend to start farther away from them? They're going to leave, you know, whatever, 25% plus overhead untouched.
Yes. And it comes from training scars. And then also some instructors don't teach that. So like Ray doesn't like it. So Ray McCormick doesn't teach to throw water above your head when you make entry. So in his experiences in the tenements that he fought fire in, it would bring down construction materials on top of his head.
Interesting.
So he actually would teach people not to do that. It's just conflicts that we talked about.
Sure.
Yeah. I always try to teach people to fight in a phone booth first. So I want you to cool your face off and then reach out and touch.
No, yeah, that's definitely something that stuck with me. I just find, imparting the information to people, that's the one habit you have to physically show them, having it rain down on you, or have them grab the nozzle and bring it up and then have them experience it and go, that's the way you should start to feel. Yeah. And then work your way ahead. So
Yeah, and it's tough depending on the ceiling height to get that rain down on you. You're gonna have to flutter it on a door frame or something, because like once the stream hits the surface, it's gonna break out in all directions. Like unless you have some construction features right above you to break it off, like a lintel or a door frame,
or you're
something
immediately in a hallway or something. Or
yeah.
yeah.
That was one of the things that UL put to bed with the interior fire tax study, because a lot of people would throw water in the overhead to check and see if the overhead was 212 degrees or higher. Because if the water didn't rain back down on top of me, it must have evaporated. But little did they realize when you strike it onto a flat surface, it's going to pie out in all directions. Yeah, water's sticky, man. It's going to ride the surface.
Yeah, unless it touches a vertical surface. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Anything else you want to cover?
It doesn't matter to me, man. I just spent 2.5 hours with Dave McGrail, man. So I've been on a standpipe rabbit hole with him. Yeah, we were talking about O'Hagan's book and Stuckey's book and his book. Did some fog versus smoothbore stuff, which was pretty cool. Talked about his history with Andy, what the fire service would look like if Andy was still alive. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, what was his take on that? You don't have to give the whole thing away, but...
Oh, yeah. He thinks that Andy would be very happy with the resurgence of the solid stream. He was writing about Return of the Solid Stream was the article he wrote in 91, September of 91.
Yep.
He thinks that he would be very happy with the direction that UL has gone. Things are circling back to the unprotected civilian, that the discussion of modern fire environment is at the forefront, and the engine company is cool again, man. He thinks he would be happy about all those things.
It makes me feel good to think about that the people that have done the work leading to our generation, that we've done right by them, that we kept it going, that we didn't let them down.
Yeah, for sure. And his FDIC speech, the keynote, "Don't worry about that nozzle, kid," was one of my favorites, man. And it's like it could have been written and performed yesterday. You know, it's still the same fire service, man. And fire service still about dirty hose and brass nozzles, man. That's one of my favorite ones. But I wish I could have met him then. And obviously, I was in the fire service after he passed away. I got in the fire service in 2002, and then 9/11 happened while I was in high school.
Yeah.
You know, but I wish I could have met him now. You know, obviously in 2002, I knew nothing about Andy Frederick.
You wouldn't know what to ask him, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You know, but it always comes back to the time machine, dude. Like if I had a time machine, I'd go back and talk to all these dudes on my bookshelf, man. That would be pretty cool.
Well, I appreciate you after all that time spent tonight that you took the time to chat with me.
Yeah, man. It's been a good time. Always enjoyed chatting with you, man.